It's time for Disorganized Play. It's time to join our little show. It's a show that's about Dungeons and Dragons and DMing and what we're gonna do this week. It's time once again for Disorganized Play. I hope that you'll enjoy it today. I don't know what else to sing this song, but here we are. This going to sing along, bum 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 bum.
Oh, are you gonna drop
now
the beat?
Now I kick it over to you. Hey everyone, welcome. Hi, I'm your host. Am I a co-host? Did you consider yourself equally a host, Zook? This is it's a penetrating question.
It is. It's too much.
It's too much?
I can't take it. I can't take the pressure.
You can't take the pressure?
No.
Because you don't want to just reach out and grab that brass ring?
I'm happy to
and
be
just claim it for yourself?
the Kathy Lee to your Regis Philbin.
No, I think I'm Hoda.
Oh, are you Hoda? Okay.
I want to be Michael. What's his face? Who's the NFL guy?
Oh,
Michael.
yeah.
Michael. You know Michael.
So does that make me Kelly Ripa?
Yeah, then you're Kelly
Okay.
Ripa.
Okay.
Oh no, shit, you guys. I'm the Kelly Ripa, and you're the Michael. Oh, Michael Strahan. Yes,
okay,
exactly.
yeah.
I like Michael Strahan a lot, actually. I was skeptical when I saw him on what is it called? I don't know.
Live with
Live with Kelly
Michael?
Ripa.
Yeah.
Kelly and Michael.
Yeah.
All right.
Michael
Okay.
and
That's it.
Kelly.
Hey, welcome. I'm Tom Lommel. This is my co-host, Michael Strahan. This is Disorganized Play. As you can tell, we're not very organized today, hence the title of the show. That's the great thing about the show is that no matter how well prepared you are, you can always fulfill.
Yeah,
you can always live up to the name.
Yeah.
No matter how ill prepared you are.
I see what you did there.
It's both. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
Hey, on Tuesdays, which is today, we get together. We talk about our Dungeons and Dragons game that we run right here on Saving Throw. On Wednesdays, we actually get together with more people. Are they co-hosts?
No.
Some brutal honesty going on here.
Are you saying that the players?
Yeah,
in
all the
Iron Keep,
players are
they
the players in
co-hosts?
Iron Keep. On Wednesday nights, we run a
Well,
D&D
it's not
game.
really a hosted show. It's
I
more of a
vehemently disagree.
unless you count like radio plays and such to be hosted programs.
Yeah. Listen, under after, it all falls under after rules. If it's not done on film, it's not SAG.
Let's not get the unions involved into our little endeavor here.
On Wednesdays, we play Dungeons & Dragons at 8 o'clock Pacific. You can join us, watch, tune in, or you can go back and watch here on Twitch or on the YouTube VODs or wherever you might find yourself enjoying the dulcet sounds of our melodious voices. On Thursdays, I come back and talk about what happened. That's what we did last Thursday. So that's the way this whole experience is organized. Along the way, we collect your thoughts, questions, insights, suggestions, smart aleck comments, and recommendations for song styles that I will sing our theme song to. Today it was a little They Might Be Giants theme, care of I believe BSB Care. If he'd written lyrics, I would have sung the lyrics. There's a new They Might Be Giants album out right now. Go out and get it. They are also touring, mostly sold out, but that's not, don't let that stop you
I think
from
it was DJ Regular.
trying it. Was it DJ Regular? I thought it was BSB Care. Hey, not me, says BSB Care. He's like, I don't care about your garbage giants, whether they're giants or not, doesn't matter. Okay, fair enough. All right, well, thank you, DJ Regular, for the unusual suggestion. Hey, so today we're going to talk about going into this week's session, some loose ends, some threats that we need to pay off because we have some things that we have late. Dave Matthews. We did Dave Matthews 2 weeks ago, and then I forgot to turn the sound on. I'm sorry, BSB Care. I don't think we'll ever replicate that experience. It was so choice. Oh, it was so good. It was me and Eric, and I totally just I tricked Eric into singing Dave Matthews along with me, and I so regret that the mic wasn't on. It was a jewel of a moment. We're going to talk about doing some foreshadowing for things that are coming down the pipeline, session-wise. We're basically going to do a bit of a little bit of plot radar, but kind of not really. And then we're going to talk about the Patreon PowerPoint. I have something to show and share with you, a little tool that I got over the weekend to help me out in creating some maps and whatnot. And we're going to demo that. Ooh, magic. So without any further ado, of course, if you have questions or comments or whatever, pop them up in the chat. We'll address them as we go along. Let's get into it.
Okay.
Right? So when we last left our party, Ava was a baby otter.
Yeah. True.
BSB Care, listen, we're in session 3 of 7 of traveling to the barrier peaks. Why should we get it? Here's the thing, if they arrive at the barrier peaks, then I have to make decisions about what's going to happen in the module. Whereas the way this works right now,
you never have to
do that. Just let them dig their own graves. So, at least we got them out of Waterdeep. Yes. So Ava was a baby otter.
Yep.
They had joined up with what did we name her character again?
Who? Which one?
The Sky Captain of tomorrow.
Eliza? It's Taika.
Eliza was Taika. Yeah, right. I had Talia stuck in my head, and I'm like, I know it's like that, but wow, why would I name something? Why would I name two lady characters so similar?
Her class was Sky Captain.
Her class is Sky Captain. What class is she? Sky Captain. What does that have levels? No. Why?
Yeah,
no. So parenthetically, I will say that this is a discussion that Dom and I had off camera last week. But when I have a player come in for literally a one-shot, right? I'm actually going to give you some DM advice now. So,
Whoa.
So.
Well, I don't think
I'm pulling up to the table. You know it's about to get real. Rather than make them a character that's like 6th level and I have to worry about what kind of magic items I give them, and then I have to worry about are they going to know all the different spells that they get and all the different class abilities that they have, and are they balanced against everybody else? Don't do that, okay? What I did was I stole a monster out of Tome of Beasts or the Monster Manual or whatever, and I just reskinned it as now this is that Taika person, and boom, here's, change the monster's entry to Taika, and maybe adjust the hit points and things like that, because monsters tend to have a lot more hit points than your average character does. But find something that seems like oh, okay, this set of abilities, number one, has some cool juice to it, and number two, there's only like 3 things that they can do that are cool. That way they don't have to manage like, oh, okay, I've got 11 spells. What do they all do? What's this? Okay, now could I use this? Especially if you got someone who's not well versed in the game that you're running, and not Eliza has done a ton of role playing, obviously, but is not 100% up to speed on D&D 5. Mm-hmm. That's fine. That's fair. Let's give her this character that she can latch onto with the role-playing hooks and whatnot. It has a couple skills. It has a couple spells. She has the attacks are all laid out for her, and take it and go. It's that simple. So especially if you're going to have somebody come in and guest in your game, whether that's your buddy from work is like, oh, I'd really like to try that. Don't dump analysis paralysis on them and go, oh, well, what kind of character would you play? And oh, well, this, here's your different, shape. Here's the 5 pages of monsters that you can turn into because you're a druid. Don't do that. Just help them get into the game as quickly as possible and be able to do a couple cool things and play. Like that's what matters. And so whenever we have guests here at the table, for saving throw, if it's a one-shot, I always like to take a monster and either just straight up say, like, when we had the one-shot where they were in, they went to the charity ball, right, with the sorority sisters. Like one of them was literally a werebear, and the other one was a pixie, right? So. Who cares? Like, that character can always disappear, die, whatever the situation needs to be. But they had something that they could hook into. Oh, I can turn into this bear form. That's cool. Yes! Give them something cool. rather than make them earn it incrementally, which is sort of the fundamental premise of a regular ongoing D&D game, right? So there you go. That's what I did with Eliza's character, and I thought it worked out great. You know, not that we got into a huge combat or anything like that, but it minimized the amount of questions that she had and that therefore I had to address. And it also maximized her understanding of what this character could do.
Right.
Oh, okay, I have some charm abilities, and I have this cool pistol that I carry around. Done. So, yeah. So they had they had jumped in their airship, the glass dragon. I couldn't remember if I called it the glass worm or the glass dragon. Hey, remember when we always rag on the players for not remembering what happened last week? I'm the DM. I don't remember it either. So they had just stolen a bunch of stuff from the Cloud Giants and beat a hasty retreat away from the giant sky castle that they had encountered.
That's a quick recap, yes.
It's a very quick recap. We talked a lot about it on Thursday, but that's where we left off. That's where we left off our heroes.
Yep.
So when I talk about things that are loose ends that we need to address, okay, does anything happen with Taika? I don't know. Probably not. I think
She probably just.
I think they arrive. Like, yeah, they they drop off at the barrier peaks. She says, "I'm gonna kind of like pull back and hang out and watch for you guys to send up, here, take this flare."
Make sure the door opens, so that make sure they get in okay. They didn't forget their keys.
No, I don't think that. I don't think she can do that.
Oh.
Remember the whole.
That's what I do when I drop people off. I just make sure they get in safely.
Yeah, no, this is Dungeons and Dragons. It's reckless.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We live on the edge in the Iron Keep.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Well, no, the reason that she can't do that is the Great Peak Mountains are covered in this smog.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So she can't navigate. I suppose she could navigate the ship through the fog, but they're looking for some sort of illusory hidden mountain or a cave, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if they found it, like, how is she going to navigate back or whatever? I don't know. Like, is she just going to hang out there? I don't know. I mean, it's.
She could just circle around the crater waiting for them. But yeah, they could have a flare or something.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That could pierce through the smog of some kind.
Or just give them like a sending stone or something like that. Some sort of magical messenger, like a homing pigeon that you would fly off and find her, and then like lead her down to them. Something of that nature.
I think since Taika did not have a dragon tattoo or anything, she could probably go back to the Cloud Giants and hang out with them while she waits for a little bit.
I don't. Well, so that brings us to the second question, right? So the second question, or the second loose thread. Well, no, the second loose thread is that Ava needs to come back, right? So she must have a message from her god. That's ostensibly why she's transformed. She's in like this meditative state or whatever, right? So I think that Basharla is going to give her the quest of go to this place and create a vessel for me.
Okay.
So that helps. That because Megan was not there for like, hey everybody, here's your cool hook. We have to kind of like catch her up on why is she involved? Why does she care? And we've been doing a lot of kind of like, I feel like I've been throwing a lot of darts at the board in terms of her character, in terms of like rid the world of evil, make the world ready,
Yeah.
So I don't like giving her a continually changing set of motivations, but I think this is one that'll stick, right? And that also has a little bit of selfishness and nuance to it, whereas before it was like, rid the world of evil. Well, if they're evil, then let's get them,
Right.
Which is certainly a fine take on it, but so so that needs to happen. And then the third thing is, in terms of loose ends, what did they steal from the Cloud Giants' lair that might be unusual, right? Now, I did not set this up as, oh, okay, you've stolen something rare and unusual, da-da-da. I just said you kind of like, you snatch and grab anything that's not nailed down. But we have an opportunity to either seed an item with them or have them find something to create some sort of, either Schrodinger's clue or something really interesting and unusual that they might use later or whatnot. So I think it's not a loose end in that the players are not expecting that to pay off. It would be nice if at some point at the beginning of the session, I gave them a list of, here are the things that you stole, boom, 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 boom. And it could just be, okay, you have 7,000 gold pieces worth of mundane but very precious kind of different art objects and whatnot. It could be that simple. But it could be, in amongst the items, you find a small Clockwork Mouse. Okay, what does that do? So we have an opportunity to introduce an element that either the party could latch onto, or that the party could take, and then it would pay off later to turn out to be something else. It could be something that they might use later. We could give them an asset, since they didn't really load up on a bunch of stuff, which is fine, right? Yeah, it would be interesting if Warwent is one of the people who's involved with this somehow, but it's not clear what his connection is. It would be nice to bubble his name back up to the top of their consciousness, right? Oh, okay, you find this little, very lifelike Clockwork Mouse that all you have to do is wind it up. Pretty cool.
Good to see you.
FQ. So those are the Flockwad.
Right. I thought you said something else.
Yeah, FQ.
Right.
When you said Flockwad, I thought you said something else too.
I know.
Yeah. Very tricky. So I think those are the loose ends as I see them.
Yeah.
Do you see something else?
No, not really. No, I was just thinking of my two of my favorite magic items.
Yes.
Which is the Gauntlets of Ogre Power and the Girdle of Giant Strength.
Why were you thinking of those?
Because they visited some giants and some ogres, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But
they didn't kill any of them.
No.
They didn't go into a bedroom, right?
Well, I remember Teka and Avril sort of went snooping around.
They did go snooping around, that's true. We didn't specify where. That was deliberate on my part. I was sort of trying to...
I'm just thinking, I know that Avril wants to start grappling things more. And if she had some Gauntlets of Ogre Power, she might be able to do that.
So here's my issue with that, right? Well, we can talk about that specific. My issue with giving them particularly ability enhancing items at this point, right, is that we know going into the Expedition of the Barrier Peaks that they're going to be finding a lot of weird equipment, right? So they're going to be finding powered armor and spacesuits, and there'll be all that kind of stuff. So I think there's an opportunity to introduce those things in the course of the adventure, and it's either not as meaningful if it's just as good as your Gauntlets of Ogre Power, but it runs on these power discs that burn out. That's actually not just as good. Right. Or it needs to be something that's better than what they already have, right? Sure. So then it needs to go from, it gives you an 18 strength to gives you like
double zero.
1876. That's I'm not it's not a Monty Hall campaign. So that's that. Let's I'm gonna write these down. Loose ends. Let's see how these I got new markers. I brought my own markers, everyone. All right. So we have. Oh, perfect. Huh? Oh, it's right in front of me. Whose microphone is this? Go away. All right. So the loose ends that we have is Ava, quest, Taika does what? And then we have the opportunity for loot. They've also just gotten a bunch of loot, like, just recently, right?
Sure, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, Xanathar loaded them up with stuff before
Yeah.
they left, too, so.
So.
They don't really need loot.
So something that might pique their interest and seems unusual.
I like the Clockwork Rat, or something that lends or leads them, like they find like a power disk, right? Something that they don't know about, but that might.
I mean, the thing is, they found a power disk in the tower when they cleaned out the dungeon. The black disc thing with the weird cookie shape that was kind of like burned out inside.
Right.
That's a power disk. They don't know that,
Right.
which is fine. I thought about that too.
Maybe they find another one that's not as, maybe not burned out or something, but you can go like, it looks like the one that you found in the tower.
Right. Reinforced that. I don't know. There's just an opportunity there for something. I don't know what. Right. So that brings us to our threats. Now, this is essentially things that we have put on the board as things that they need to be worried about, need to address. And therefore, if we don't address them or they don't come up, then it starts to get muddy. You know, players, you throw this stuff out there, players set an expectation, and then it's your job to either twist the payoff on that expectation or to give them exactly kind of like what you know, against the giants. The expectation is we're going to fight giants. If you don't fight giants, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
If you don't encounter giants, the players are confused what's happening. They start to get lost, right? So we know that they need to encounter this toxic fog. That's been put out there through the PowerPoint deck, right? We know that there's dimensional portals. How can we forget it, you guys? Goats. Goats, 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 goats.
Yeah.
I mean, this raises a pretty big question, which is, what are they?
They're goats.
Yeah, that can't be the answer. That cannot be the answer.
Yeah, but you know how what kind of shit goats can
Oh,
deal with?
yeah, like goats can, yeah.
Goats are the cockroaches of goats.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're awful.
Yeah.
My wife wants to go on like a little like mini vacation to some place, and I think it's in Canada, like in British Columbia, where it's a bunch of cabins, or it's like a bed and breakfast, and it has a sod roof. It's one of those like built into a hillside kind of things, and they just have goats on the roof all over the property.
Nice.
Like there's goats on the roof, goats in the yard. And she's like, oh, I just love goats so much. I really want to go visit and I want to stay there. And I'm like, do you know what time you'll be getting up in the morning? The answer is whenever those fucking goats get up.
Yeah.
Because you will not be able to sleep through 30 goats. Just
Goat.
like, so, yeah, BSB Care brings up, we talked about maybe they're a surveillance system or a warning system. I think that's fine. That's actually, fairly cool. The question that we need to address is, if that's the case, are they magical or are they tech? Okay. Now,
Or both.
they could be clockwork. I don't really like that answer, but they could be. The reason I don't like the clockwork answer is it feels a little on the nose, right? It feels a little predictable, right? Again, your job as the DM, create surprises, right? Create intrigue, pique the player's interest by giving them a twist, subverting their expectations. Setting expectations, but then that are fulfilled in an unexpected way, right? So, the Clockwork, and the reason it feels on the nose is because we were just talking about Warwind,
Sure,
right? Which is fine. I wonder if Warwind doesn't actually become one of the threats here, right? If he doesn't bubble up somehow. I don't know. I think he's a big... He's going to be a big element, I think, and I don't think he's a big Schrodinger's clue right now. They've heard a lot about him. They know that he's this fantastic adventurer and inventor. They don't know what he's done or what his purpose is or even where he is, right? So he's an enormous Schrodinger's clue. If we're going to put him on our plot radar, like he's going to be out there. He's definitely an element that's dangling. Right. So that's one of the reasons I feel like this Clockwork thing is a little on the nose. But what we really have to decide is if the goats are some sort of surveillance or guardian system, which is perfectly reasonable, who are they in service of? Are they in service of the ship and its inhabitants, or is it in service of the gods who have apparently come from this place? Now that's assuming that we're going with the whole idea that somehow the ship has birthed quote unquote gods, whatever that means. That theme was reinforced last week with the giants, where the giants told this weird creation myth or whatever, right? There's definitely an AI in the ship. Here's a big theme that I think we need to keep in mind. Right? This is a personal decision that I've made about the adventure, although I think it is borne out by reading the adventure. If there is surveillance goats, we need to have a very, very serious discussion about
Guys,
the role of these goats.
Let's not joke around.
Yeah, let's kind of keep the frivolity on the whole. This is very important. So an important decision that I think we need to make, especially because we've put an AI in the ship, right? But also I think you need to make the decision if you're going to run the adventure as is, which is, do the inhabitants of the ship, whoever they are, have any idea about the outside world, right? And as written, it doesn't seem that way. It's like they stay in the ship and they do their weird ship stuff and they're just sort of trapped in there, and the door opens every once in a while and robots kick things out the door and then they never go back in, and that's that. Like, apparently in the module as written, the inhabitants of the ship don't have any curiosity about the outside world, or if they do, they never go back inside, right? Goat, hey, you know what? I think goats are actually a serious thing with that double-pupiled eye and stuff. They're creepy as all get out. I think goats are super creepy.
And they can eat anything.
Yeah, well, and that whole, the whole connection with the goat-headed, kind of devil worship type of stuff, right? And goat sacrifice and that sort of stuff, right? There's plenty of motivation for the things that you're talking about, BSB Care, in terms of like the AI wants to protect the ship, protect the people, and that could be completely justified. However, my take on this setup is that the ship does not know that it's crashed. The AI is not aware that it's crashed. The AI is not aware that there's an outside world. Because if it was, it's set up, it's a colony ship, right? If it was aware that it had crashed on the surface of the planet, then it would be busy deploying colonists and setting up and terraforming and fulfilling the, we've arrived part of our mission, right? Or at least it would be doing a thing where it's like, okay, let's go out and collect all the magical gewgaws, or enough iridium or unobtainium so that we can get launched back into interstellar space and get back on course, right? But as written in the adventure, the ship's nobody in the ship is trying to do anything with the outside world. They're not trying to interact. They're not on a quest for anything. They're not I mean, they're not even trying to really fix the ship or anything like that,
Right.
as written. So if we don't want to deviate, I mean, we're going to deviate plenty far already from the adventure as written, but it complicates our remix if we decide that the AI in the ship is actually aware of what the outside world is. So then a whole bunch of questions get raised in terms of why hasn't it interacted with, you know, different pieces of civilization out there in the magical fantasy world? If it has, how has it done so? You know, has it spawned this group of gods? Does it feel responsible for who these gods have become? Da, 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 da. Like, there's a bunch of implications to the ship being aware of where it is and what's happening around it, and surveillance and all that kind of stuff, right? But if the AI still thinks it's traveling and still thinks the ship is going on its mission, well, now it's self-contained. It doesn't realize that it's on a planet that's not moving. Now, keep in mind, one of the things that we've sent up is that it's an area of interdimensional instability, right? So here, I'm going to tip my hand because you're going to see it tomorrow night anyhow. But most of the ship is in some sort of like hyperspace pocket dimension, right? But parts of the ship are crashed into the planet. It kind of goes back to the whole Star Wars idea of like, if we come out of hyperspace too close to the planet, like we get embedded in it, or like if you teleport or whatever, right? So now you have this weird, like something we talked about last week is that the cataclysm is ongoing, right? In the adventure as written, I keep motioning over here because I've got the module right here, but in the adventure as written, the cataclysm happened, right? The plague struck, it wiped out everybody, the ship crashed, it's all over. And now it's just been dormant for X whatever hundreds of years, and nobody's ever touched it, nobody's ever been inside, and it just happens to start opening up because there was an earthquake that revealed it, right? But whatever happened is like gone, done with, over, and the ship is essentially sort of shut down as this weird tomb, more or less, right? It's a zoo where the gates have closed and the staff has left for the night, and then they never come back, and the animals just start taking over. That's what it is. That's fine for a one-shot, two-shot type of adventure. It's not fine for a multi-session kind of narrative-driven kind of experience that we want to create here, right? There's not enough hooks in that to propel the party into character development and real relationship exploration. You know, bonding, forming relationships and bonds with creatures and personalities in the ship, and then exploring those relationships and bonds, and then kind of coming out the other side. Also, there's no problem to solve. The problem is entirely like self-directed, right? We need to get out. Whereas now, if the cataclysm is ongoing, as we talked about last week, now it becomes a bigger issue than just get out. Just avoid everything that you can and get out. No, if we create a different problem, then they need to go and talk to people and gather information and gather resources and expertise from them and put the puzzle pieces together that help them, you know, assemble the keys essentially that help them fix the situation.
Were you thinking of having the players talk to the AI at all?
Probably.
The computer? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why not.
What if the AI, we might have talked about this before, but what if the AI in the crash got some pieces broken or or things missing?
That's definitely true.
So instead of going, why didn't it do this, like colonize, you know, and stuff like that, maybe that portion of its programming was lost or broken or whatever. So it hits that directive and it goes, I don't know, and it just continues on with something else, right? So it could have created those goats as a early system of making sure everything works out here on this place, but then it's just like, well, okay, everything looks great, but I don't know the next function. Because any computer program, you can close off the logic, right? You can say, but don't do this, or if you don't see something, then continue on to something else.
Yeah.
So maybe it's got some pieces of it that block it from doing certain things that we would say, well, this would happen.
Right.
And then potentially it could be talking to the players and be like, oh, I'm pretty sure some pieces are missing. If you could help me fix them,
right,
that would be great. But what the players don't know is that if they fix that computer, like, all sorts of things are going to start happening, right?
Yeah, there could be a lot of different implications or whatever.
Yeah. So
I mean, I think all of those things are valid. I think there's a couple different pieces there's a couple different things to attack here, and there's also a couple different things that chat brought up that we need to kind of go back and pick up. Although I don't want to get into like too deep into spoiler territory, but
sure.
A couple ideas. One is I want to dispense with the notion that there is a single AI that controls the whole ship. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, that's a little cliche, right?
Sure.
You see that in every movie of like, oh, a computer, right? And it runs the whole thing. Instead, I think it would be more interesting to be like, okay, there's one ship that's in charge of like all the well-being of the colonists and life support systems, right? Mm-hmm. There's one AI that's in charge of like deploying all of like the gene engineering stuff that's going to happen on the planet or whatever. There's another AI that's in charge of the actual like propulsion navigation of the ship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there are, in fact, rather than having one AI, you'd have these like subject matter AIs who would fulfill the role of science officer,
sure,
captain,
right,
pilot, security, all those things. And some of them may be fully functioning and aware of their portion of the ship, but they might be either cut off from communicating to each other or whatever. So that's where it becomes interesting to me is like, what if the security AI is somehow defanged? Right, it can't deploy its robots. They don't do what it wants properly. They've actually started rebelling against like inhabitants of the ship, and the AI is incredibly conflicted about this. But all he can do is keep telling the pilot AI or the commander AI like they're attacking the people on the ship again. The kid is like, well, why don't you stop them? I can't do it. So he has kind of like a nervous breakdown, panic attack because he's trapped in this place. The flip side of that might be you might have something that, like the gene engineering AI, who's 100% capable of doing whatever he wants, but has no communication with anybody else in the systems, and is just sitting there waiting to like be contacted. Like, do you want a new humanoid? You want a new crew? Sure, burp burp burp. Like nobody can get down there and push communicate through the interface, right?
Right.
I mean, it brings up another, Del Rock makes a good point that those AIs could just be splinter versions of the main AI. But I think you have an opportunity here to explore the function and dysfunction and implications of altered perception.
It wasn't an ellipse, by the way. It was Mr. Handy. The period was too close to handy, so it looked like it. Yeah, it can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about that.
So I think that creates that. Why would we go to that point, right? Like having one computer, one AI is an interesting concept. It's very quick, shorthand, direct, right? But having multiple AIs allows us to introduce different NPC personalities who have different goals and motivations for the party to interact with. So rather than just fixing the computer, they have to take this message that they've somehow received from the security AI down to the engineering AI, and have him manufacture this broadcast device that would then interact with the it enables you to have a much more interactive quest that's plausibly interactive, right? Yeah. Yeah, and what if the AI left the ship? I mean, that's a great point too.
Yeah.
So Chad's bringing up some, these are the high level ideas that I think, we have to kind of churn through in some of our foreshadowing. So we're a little bit ahead of ourselves. The other thing though about this goats thing, right, is I want to, the heart of the issue here of magic versus tech. Let's just say that Clockwork is off the table for now, right? Is what this really comes down to is it an external or is it an internal? Oh, we're not on the overhead camera anymore. Is it an external or is it an internal guardian who's connected to this thing, right? Mm-hmm. So, if it's the AI who's somehow connected to this, as we just spent time talking about, well, now it becomes a tip of the hand of, okay, you're dealing with science fantasy now. Mm-hmm. If they fight these goats and they have, an eyeball pops off and there's a camera thing underneath, and then they stab one and it's got a metal hide and da da da.
Yeah.
Right? Raises some questions of like, why haven't people tried to attack these things before? Can you kill them? All that kind of stuff. Like, are the goats robots? Mm-hmm. But it really raises that science fantasy theme immediately, right? And I think we've done a pretty good job of clouding the waters in terms of, I don't think it's been foreshadowed that they're going on a technological expedition, right? No. They're going to a ship. I think they think they're going to some place that's magical and weird, and that somehow gods are involved, and there's this thing called God's fire. That's all that they know. If these goats have somehow been set up by a magical force, it's somebody external to the ship, mm-hmm. somebody who knows something about the ship, and somebody who doesn't want people interacting with the area. It's much less of a jump to tie this thing in. Mm-hmm. It fits our rising pattern of people want you to stay out, people want you to stay away from this thing, da da da. Right. So if the goats, transform into magical goat men, or they summon some guy who's like, why are you here? That fits in line with the player's expectations, right? I don't know if it's too much of more of the same, but I think it's part of the natural progression here, mm-hmm. right? Which is the Lords of Waterdeep wanted to hide this map. Xanathar is using the party as cover because somebody doesn't want you to go in there. You can't scry there. You can't teleport there. Right. Like, it's this forbidden area. And it reinforces the idea that there are forces at work in the world who know about this thing and want to keep you away.
Right. Yeah. Instead of keeping them away, though, it could be someone who can't get in there otherwise and is tracking people.
Oh, just wants to see if anybody can figure it out.
And be like, oh, okay. Oh,
how did they figure it out?
Well,
oh, okay.
I'm going to start following them in,
Mm-hmm.
Bastion, I have not peeked inside. He does not know about it.
No, I don't know.
And I have an inkling of what it might be, though, because I looked up the company that it was shipped from.
Is it a little E.T.? Ah, Elliot. Yeah. Ouch.
Yes.
E.T.
It's an E.T.
That's as much as...
You guessed it.
Well, guess what? Time out, guys. No D&D tomorrow. We're just going to play the Atari E.T. game, 2600. 4 hours. Yep, special 4-hour stream. Playing the game that was so bad they buried it in a landfill. I like that. I really love this suggestion that you've created, that they're not guardians, but they are monitors, mm-hmm. right? And like, oh, who are those people? And also, you know that especially Havana though, is going to be like, will these ghosts keep following us? Fuck these ghosts. I'm gonna murder one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that idea. That really does.
Can Gaurav get bitten and become a weregoat? Fuck, what ass?
We've done so much to Gaurav's character. I don't know that he can take any more.
He becomes a lawful evil weregoat, but only on the quarter moon.
All right. I'm trying to think what other threats we may have put on the board that, so the only other thing, it's not really a threat, right? But it is the illusion cloaked cave, right? Mm-hmm. Now, in the PowerPoint deck, we also mentioned some sort of guardian or statue or whatever that's in this cave, right?
You're close. It's an X, not a Z. But I don't think Xanathar said anything about the goats. The goats were in the PowerPoint presentation.
In the PowerPoint presentation, it says the goats are surly, stupid, and sacred. Do not attack the goats. So they've been told not to kill the goats.
Right.
So that does raise the question, like if they kill the goats, what's going to happen? We have to decide that. All right.
I think we'll just dress Harold up as a goat.
And then if they kill one, then Luigi shows up.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, okay, hey, can you guys pet me?
Yeah.
All right.
That would be great if there were goats, but they were kind of short and squat goats. And if you killed one, a much slender, taller, more powerful-looking goat showed up. It just sort of would evolve a little bit to counter whatever.
What? I swear. Well, isn't that the basis essentially of a scene in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy where like first they send a scout robot and they like shoot that down and then like another robot comes as a little more deadly.
Yeah.
And Marvin the paranoid android is like, oh, that's only gonna get worse.
Right.
Until the Killazap 10,000 whatever like war tank shows up. Yeah. One of my favorite scenes in that book. All right. So yeah, I guess, the question, we spent a lot of time talking about goats today. Mm-hmm. The other question about these things that we need to ask, I'm just going to kind of cordon this off here, because it does raise, this question is essentially raised as well, is sacred to whom?
The Guardian.
Well, I mean,
Newspaper.
Is there a village like at the base of the mountains,
Right.
or are there wandering nomads? Kind of like sand people who traverse the hill. That's a sticky one, right? That's a sticky question. But it is implied by saying that the goats are sacred, like sacred to whom?
Right.
Especially when you have a polytheistic society like you do in the Forgotten Realms. Like I don't care about Saint Cuthbert. Mm-hmm. Not a god in the Forgotten Realms. All right. So I think things we need to foreshadow is we're just going to highlight some themes. We've already talked about this. we've already talked about some themes that I think we're going to explore with the AI stuff, but I think a big motif that plays out in this thing is alienation and isolation. So part of that turns into, do they speak their language? How do they communicate?
Sure.
Etc. And then the isolation part of it is like people don't come in and visit, people don't leave, people don't go back, or very few people. No one leaves and comes back as far as we can tell, right? Do they? So there's, as we discussed earlier, there's not an exchange of ideas or culture between the ship and the rest of the Forgotten Realms, right?
Right.
So, so these things need to play out in terms of, some easy way to make these things play out would be in terms of architecture, materials. This seems strange, but for D&D, it's actually a very important and useful point. Signage. So if we're going to show them a picture of something that's labeled, let's not make it in English or make it in common. Who's asking this?
Blind Seer?
Blind Seer says, will there be subcultures within the ship itself? If so, there needs to be some barriers or separation within the ship itself. So an important thing about the ship is that it has 5 or 6 different decks, right? I mean, really the way that it works is there's level 1 that they're supposed to come into. Then there's sort of this weird like sandwich layer that's like a engineering and maintenance deck in between. And then, so that's technically level 2. Then below that is this big, let's just call it biosphere kind of area. And I believe there's another maintenance deck in between that. These are all called the tween decks, right? I believe that's 4.
Wizards a while ago made one of their great cartoons.
Mockman, yeah, the Mockman walkthrough, which is really terrific, yeah. And then deck 5 is like this weird, maybe this is deck 4, but there's either deck 4 or deck 5 is like an observation and disco kind of like entertainment deck. Then there's like the cargo. There's the cargo. It's weird. It's cargo and it's like pool, gym.
Theater? Isn't there a theater?
Yeah, there's a theater in there too.
Or auditorium or something like that.
So in terms of separation between those, I think there is there's a natural separation between the different levels, right? I think there's also a natural separation between the accessible areas for the crew and passengers in terms of there's the living quarters, there's the biodome area, there's the observation deck, and there's the pool and gym and stuff like that. And then these weird maintenance tween decks, right, that are home to some pretty like bizarre monsters, right? So, so I think there's plenty of room for subcultures. Like the creatures that live in the tween deck probably are related to some sort of maintenance and engineering type of either crew or robots or biological robots or cyborgs or whatever you want to call it. Honestly, like, so it was brought up last week that this is all modeled on a cruise ship, right? If you truly model it on a cruise ship, then in the tween decks, that's the crew-only areas where you have all the people who are from the Philippines and from Africa and from, like your crew of a cruise ship is a bunch of people who aren't making jack squat from basically a bunch of foreign countries who speak English good enough to get by on the ship, and they do their, whatever X number of months on the ship, and then they get discharged, released from their contract, get paid a big fat sum of money, and then go on to a different ship, right?
Yeah.
But they're not encouraged or really allowed to do any interacting or socializing with the inhabitants of with the guests on the cruise ship, right? And I think you could set up that same sort of dynamic here in the spaceship, right? Which is that whatever AI and whatever minions controls the maintenance function in the kind of the locked off maintenance deck, it's not supposed to talk directly to the, it reports up the chain to the captain. It doesn't interact directly with the crew or anything like that, nor should it, right? Like you don't want, it's almost like a network, a computer network, right? You don't want the permissions on your computer network open to the guy in sales. You want your IT staff, to be the coordinating point for that sort of stuff.
Right.
So I think there are opportunities for subcultures within the ship and to have separated themselves off either by design or as a result of whatever accident has happened, right? So, so I think that's important. I think the other thing that we're going to get into here. So another theme that I want to bring out in this first encounter, begin foreshadowing, is I want to go much stronger on the interdimensionality. Right? That there's essentially like some sort of like hyperspace rift or whatever. And again, that can be brought forth in the environment and also in the encounters. Right? So they may encounter, if the ship is stuck in this weird kind of like, if it's stuck in the astral or this weird hyperspace thing or some of both, like I'm not sold on the decision, or I'm not locked into a decision that it only exists in two different planar dimensions, right? That it exists part of the ship is on the prime material and part of it's in, say, hyperspace, right? Mm-hmm. I think maybe it's fragmented between several different dimensions. And that's also part of then what, slices this up into different, the ship up into different areas is maybe part of this deck is in this dimension and and that connects over to here, etc. Right? So not only is the ships physically separated into various decks, but within those decks you might have part of the ship existing in part of it is stuck in hyperspace, part of it is in this astral pocket dimension, part of it actually is in the material world.
Sure.
Or something like that, right? I also want to bring out this idea that the place is this alienation and isolation theme can also be underscored through the use of scale and the use of sprawl, right? So, and what I mean by that is the idea that you go into the mountain and you're in this place that is enormous. Mm-hmm. The corridor goes on and on and on, lights, areas of darkness flickering, there's water dripping someplace, etc., right? But just kind of a theater of the mind type of experience that goes, if you map this thing, how is it going to work? That intersects with the idea of this interdimensionality thing of what if you weren't able to map the place? What if you find you get turned around and there's some sort of like rift event that's like, okay, well, when you go back, it's not, you're going back into a different area or whatever, right? If anybody has read House of Leaves, which I recommend you read it, don't read any spoilers about it, just read it. But I'm going to give you the premise of the book, which is this guy, I don't remember if he inherits a house or buys a house or whatever. He moves in, or he's planning to move in, and he goes to measure the different rooms inside so that he can get like his furniture laid out. And when he goes in and measures the place, the dimensions on the inside don't match what the outside of the square footage is. And then from there, it literally begins this kind of like torturous descent into, now wait a minute, every time that each time he tries to observe it, it gets weirder and weirder. It's an incredibly frustrating book to read, but it has a great payoff if you stick with it.
That's different from the House of Bernard Alba, right?
It's apparently, yes. No, it's House of Leaves. House of Leaves. It's an acclaimed work of experimental fiction. All right. So those are the things that I want to foreshadow. I think the final thing that I'll add on this list is that this should all add up no matter what's happening. This all adds up to an ongoing calamity, right? That whatever's broken in the ship didn't break and is stuck. It's like continuing to break. It's not a car accident. It's
a nuclear meltdown.
Well, yeah. I guess something like that. Yeah, or or it's like a self-sustaining nuclear meltdown, though, right?
It's not something that has a finite
conclusion.
Happen and then.
Now we could put a ticking clock on it. It's like if you don't fix the ship by X, it blows up or whatever. I don't think that that's fun in this, but in where we're at in the campaign.
Well, you could also be like, it may not happen if you don't solve this by X. The fallout won't be immediate. Like, it's not like a nuclear bomb hits or anything like that. But relatively quickly, it will be impossible to stop.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's just going to snowball out of control so that once you hit that point, you can't stop it.
I think the interesting choice that we may present to our players, right? And that's always fun, is presenting them with an interesting choice, which is the isolation and the alienation of this place may suck you in, right? So you could do nothing and live out the rest of your life on this ship and know that you're just never going home. But you're stuck here. You've kind of wandered into this prison. Or option 2 is you can get back to home and get back to the people that you know and love and care about. But once you just start foot down that path, you've got to succeed. Otherwise, it does blow up the ship or whatever.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's where it becomes one of those things of like, you've only got one shot at this, and if you screw it up, you can't go back to, it's going to explode the ship or whatever. It's going to destroy the place. Or you could leave things the way they are and not mess with anything, but just sort of like make the noble sacrifices. I'm going to relegate myself to this lifelong kind of imprisonment. I think that may be I like the idea that when you get stuck on this ship, it takes you, it kind of, it's its own suffocating silence.
Sure. Yep.
Bastion Fields says, what about if you don't solve this by X, it starts over, only something subtly different, and you might not notice it, and the more they fail, whatever that means, the more and more obvious things that are altered. Yeah, it's kind of a Groundhog Day scenario, right? I'm not very keen on doing a time loop version of this scenario. And I will say mostly because the Adventure Zone essentially did that, and I think they did a great job of it, and I don't see a point in covering that ground, especially since they just wrapped their big D&D arc a few months ago.
Sure.
So I like that idea, but I think in the interests of making a play for originality, I think we've got enough on the table here to work with that.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that the ship thinks it's still traveling, I don't think that's going to be obvious to the players. And I think it'll be an interesting reveal to them, and then that it has a lot of implications for that. So, for them to explore. So that's where we're at. All right, we're running over time, so I'm going to cover this last kind of bullet point and brief. So if you're a Patreon backer, you may have noticed that in the Iron Keep folder, there's the PowerPoint deck from our game last week. So I did a map of the Great Peak Mountains, and I did it in color, so I even have that in color. Actually, I'm not sure how it'll turn out in black and white, but it's for our Patreon backers. And you get a copy of that. So great, good for you. That's awesome. Thank you for unlocking all the slides and whatnot. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I really loved that portion of the evening, and I thought it added some. Well, we talked about it last week. You know, it's just a great way to get a lot of exposition out there without having to drill down to a million boring details, or to give them a handout that's like 9 pages for them to read, and they go, I don't get it. I'm not going to read this right now. Okay, fine. Yeah. Now, I got myself in pursuit of this quest to make a copy of the map, which I could actually distribute. I got myself this is a light board. You can leave the overhead up. So this will actually, let me flip this around. This helps you trace things, right? Am I gonna blow everybody's eyes out? Yes. Maybe. Here's the trick, right? Which way does it go? There, that's the end. So this was like $20 on Amazon. That's not terrible. So, you know, the beautiful thing of this is you can just take tracing paper, drop it on there. And here's one of the reasons that I decided to invest in this. Like, admittedly, $20 isn't a huge investment, right? But I am constantly fiddling with these things. Now, when I did the actual like map or whatever at home, I taped this stuff down. You can also just get like office clips, like bulldog clips or whatever, and clip the thing to the board. But it's got 3 different levels of light. Yeah, and I'm always fiddling and adding details and things like that. So I used to do this just kind of literally in the dark, and then you're kind of like, well, where is that edge? Where's that river that runs in here? I can't find it because I can't see it. And this really helps me create an accurate enough copy that I'm happy with it, but not so accurate that it's like, oh, that's blatant stealing or whatever. And it also allows me to work really fast, right? So I just trace this edge, or as fast as I want to. Let's put it that way. Like if I want to get really super detailed, I can. But, I just outlined this entire forest super quickly. Boom, 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 boom. And the best, one of the advantages to doing these types of maps is now all of a sudden you can create hand-drawn looking maps that you can alter features if you want, right? And not everything has that, like, don't get me wrong, give Mike Schley money. Mike Schley puts in, or Mike Schley puts an incredible amount of work into these things. So don't steal this stuff. I bought the original Forgotten Realms full-blown Sword Coast map for my own use, right? Well, that's what this is for, right? So definitely pay the people who deserve money, pay them money. But also, the mountain styles that he has here are a particular way. I wanted to do these types of mountain styles. Well, I don't have to kind of, pick and choose. I can literally just trace over. Okay, well, there's more mountains. If there's text on here that I don't like, I can just draw over it. Mm-hmm. And now it's got my style, right? Or whatever style I want. If I want to rename this stuff, etc. And the beauty of it for me is, if you go on, I got it on Amazon. You just search. You can search Lightbox or whatever. Lightbox is an easy one, or Tracing Box. I don't know if you can pull up our Amazon link, but you should be able to find it. Let me look on my phone. I can tell you exactly what to look for. And what I am looking for is my recent orders. So this is called an A4 ultra-thin portable LED light box. I don't know if you want to.
This one? Tic Tac?
It is Tic Tac. That one has the
rulers?
Yeah, that one has the rulers on it, which is up to you. This one was $18, so it's it's
there we go.
It's $1 here, it's $1 there. There's some of them are magnetic. Certainly, like look around and decide how much you want to like. It's an investment of somewhere between $18 and $25, right? It plugs into it comes with a USB, a 6-foot USB, mini USB cord. You have to have your own adapter, right? But I mean. The beauty of it is it will plug into like an external battery or whatever, right? I think I could theoretically power it off of my phone. I'm not gonna, no, because it doesn't have the right adapter on it, but you can plug it into a USB backup battery, and like I just sat on the couch with my USB backup battery, or you can plug it into your phone charger or whatever. You can plug it into your computer or your laptop and have it powered off your computer or your laptop. But what that means, so here's one of the reasons that I love tracing paper and I love this style of creating things, right? Is that I don't have to scan it, adjust it, clean it up in Photoshop, like play around with it, print it, worry about printing it off in color, all of that sort of stuff, right? If there's something in here that I want to do a variation on, then I can line it up and copy it. It would have helped me with these crappy PDF copies of this map. So this is the first level, right? It's a crappy scan of a crappy blue map to begin with. That's the original. It's not going to work on something that's hardcover like this, obviously, right? It sort of goes, but it's not going to be good enough. Mm-hmm. But if I'd had this, I'd at least be able to like trace it in a little bit more accurate fashion. But you tape the two things together, and I could be working on multiple things at once if I want to. I can also leave pieces of information off, right? Mm-hmm. If I want to create, let's say the Veggie Pygmies have some sort of rudimentary version of the map, right? They might not know about the edges of the ship. Maybe they do. I don't know. But now, obviously, I'm working really fast here, just for the sake of illustration. But their map might, if I want to do a fragment of the map, it might only look like that. I don't have to, if I were to scan this, then I have to go in with my eraser tool and either find these lines and pull them to a different layer, or I have to be very careful about how I erase. And what I like about this is it's, number one, it's quick. It's just as quick as I can do with Photoshop, basically. Number two, I don't have to be sitting at my desk in front of the computer to do it. And number three, it's as detailed as I want to make it, and it's very quick and rapid kind of like results. I could also be working in pencil and then go over this in ink, right? So that would also be an easy way to create a map that if I wanted to clean it up a little bit and adjust or whatever. But there's so many of these old school modules as like, oh, I buy the PDF, but then when I get the contents of the PDF, I always want to tweak, change, adjust, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is going to help me facilitate that. I do enough stuff with tracing paper that it's worth it. If you don't do a lot of stuff with tracing paper, that's fine.
Right.
But it's a tool that I decided to go ahead. I've been looking at these for a while, and finally I was like, you know what? It's $18. Let's do it. And I'm happy with what it does for the investment that I got. It's a nice size. I can put it in my bag. You don't want it to get scratched up and things like that. It's just plastic. It's really like sort of like plexiglass with some sort of like diffused light coating in the back here. But I'm very happy with it. And I think we're going to put it to good use here as we go into the barrier peaks, into the bowels of the ship.
In the next 25.
Yeah, I mean, seven episodes from now, this is really going to have a big payoff. But even with this, I guess the last thing I want to say about this is, even with the quick and crappy sketch job that I did here, it has a very handmade and distinctively different feel than anything that's already been supplied with the module.
Yeah.
It could include whatever or exclude whatever elements that I want. And it's better than I probably could have done freehand, just kind of like I did a map. It's in here. Before I got this, I did my own version of the map. And I did it, God, this was annoying. So you probably can't tell on the picture, but this is gridded tracing paper, right? So this is engineering tracing paper. And so what I did was I took my copy of the map and I took my tracing paper and I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's a hallway. And I literally like measured it all out and tried to make it as square and complete as possible. It was so incredibly tedious.
I can imagine.
It was, ridiculous. So, as Delrock? Mm-hmm. Is that who this? Yep. As Delrock says, it's a great way to make a hand-drawn map that the PCs could find. Yeah. That, your NPCs who may not have Mike Schley's level of artistic talent, they might be carrying that around.
Hey, Roboto.
All right. So that's just something I wanted to share with you. Obviously, we have an Amazon Smile link. It doesn't cost you any extra. If you are interested in this, you could purchase through our Amazon Smile. Did you put it in the chat?
I did. It's not Amazon Smile.
Oh, is it just our affiliate link?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have an Amazon Smile, you can order through that.
Yeah.
Through the link, I think.
Through the link.
Supports two things, I think.
But yeah, so if you're interested in that, please use our affiliate link, and we'll get a couple. Well, we'll literally get 50 cents out of it, but whatever. Something a buck. So give that a look and feel free to support us that way. Other than that, we're over time, so we're gonna wrap it up here. We're 20 minutes over. we got to chatting about some high-level ideas.
Yeah, lots of goats.
Lots of the goats and the AIs are gonna. We'll be done talking about one of those things hopefully on Thursday. Mm-hmm. BSB Care, I don't want any guff. He's not even in the chat anymore.
Yeah, sure he is.
Sure he is. So with that in mind, you can see how all of this plays out. What I finally decide tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Pacific time here on Save and Throw Show, where we'll have myself and the rest of our Iron Keep co-hosts here at the table to play some Dungeons and Dragons. Thanks for subbing up, Del Rock. Appreciate it. Appreciate the kind compliments. Tonight at 8 o'clock, you will be able to enjoy the mustachioed stylings of the Call of Cthulhu crew. Mr. Wes Otis and his gang of ruffians will be in here for Black Bag Detectives, which is our Cthulhu/70s New York cop show session. It's powered by Fate, and it's session 2. So if you want to,
technically it's session 8.
I mean, technically it's session 8, but it's the second session of the third season, right? Yeah. Like if you watched last week, you have time right now to go watch last week, and then you came in and watched tonight's, you wouldn't be that far behind, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so 6 episodes happened, and we took a break, and then the second, so big things happened at the end of that episode. But this is sort of a different, this continues off where those 6 episodes left, but yeah, you would not be far behind in terms of where this section of the story is going. Mm-hmm. So yes, this is the second part of the second half of the first season.
So you can tune in for the second half of the third part of the 9th season of Black Bag Detectives,
which started 54 years ago.
Which started 54 years ago. What did we just get a tip?
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Blind Seer. Thank you so much.
Blind Seer, thanks for tipping in. Appreciate it. We will. I didn't even give myself my free reroll from last week. Blind Seer tipped in again. Yeah.
Well, if you don't do it, I can't remind you.
All right, I'll give my. You can certainly remind me, Dom. Your status as a co-host is very much in jeopardy.
I'm just doing exactly what Kelly Ripo would do.
We decided I'm Kelly.
Oh, I'm doing what Hoda would do.
So that's tonight. Tomorrow night is the D&D game. Thursday, I'll be back here at 2 o'clock. Thursday night, America's GM, DM David Crennan, is bringing another installment of Never Tell Me the Odds. Is that correct? Yep. The Star Wars game is happening. Fantasy Flight Star Wars is happening Thursday night. Friday is episode 2 of the 3rd season of the 54th year of the 9th century of Wildcards. Yeah. If you did not see the opening of Wildcards, go on the YouTubes on Save and Throw Show, the Save and Throw Show YouTube channel, and watch the amazing intro for Wildcards that Gaurav Gulati put together. Yeah. It was awesome. And if you didn't watch the game, hey, go back and watch the VOD or watch it on YouTube there too. So. Why not? 2 free rerolls for me. Thank you, Blind Seer. Yes, we're gonna have, those goats are gonna rip some shit up. So there we go. That's the buzz. Hey, thanks to everyone who joined me today. We had some great discussion. We had some great ideas batted back and forth. I always appreciate your insight and inspiration. I always take something away from it and use it to inspire tomorrow night's game. And I'm sure you're going to see some of the things that I talked about earlier bubble up as opportunities for chat to unlock, etc.
I'm always interested to see what you pull in and what you don't pull in, and then what the players react to and what they don't. You know?
Was there anything? Can you think of an example where you're like, oh, that was a great, that was a.
Well, I think the Ava stuff, because we had talked about how Ava was going to deal with Megan, and then you had her transform into an otter, which was.
And I think either you brought that up or chat brought that up. That really wasn't my idea. I don't think.
Yeah, I think we had that she would commune with.
I knew that was going. That was my inclination. Like that was certainly where I was going with it. But then to have her transform into the baby thing, you're right. That was just a magical like bit of role playing that didn't take away, I think, from anything in the session.
Right.
But it added such a whole new element to like the relationship between her and Thawne, and it was really a fun moment. Yeah. All right, so thanks to Fockwad, BSB Care, and all of our mods who help keep the channel safe, friendly, clean, and accessible for all of our fine guests here in the stream. And thanks to everyone who spread the word on social media and or supports us financially. The only way we can keep the doors open is through your generous donation of either the eyeballs, trumpeting, heralding the word, or of course, cold hard cash is what our landlord prefers. So
it's true.
End of the month is coming, January 23rd. So thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, let's dungeon! Look at that! Wow, look at that! Hey, you're officially 3 for 9. That's 33%. You're like baseball good.